I let them call me a disappointment for years. I smiled while they placed me at the children's table at 32, sighed over my ordinary office job, and cheered loudly for every achievement my sister presented as her own. They had no idea I quietly owned the entire company they admired so much. Then one barbecue afternoon, my sister's manager walked into our backyard and greeted me as Madam CEO in front of everyone. The silence was overwhelming. The wine glass slipped and shattered, and in that moment, every hidden sorrow, every private victory, and every long-held ache finally found its voice. This is what happened when they finally saw the real me. I am Claire Monroe, 32 years old, and for more than a decade I allowed my family to see only the version of me they felt comfortable with. Quiet, unremarkable, and forever falling behind. To them, I was the younger daughter who never quite measured up, the one who settled for a simple life as an administrative assistant. They never imagined the truth I protected so carefully, like a small, steady light. I was the majority owner and CEO of Dalton Industries, a thriving $500 million industrial and tech company. I had built everything silently, through years of careful investing, thoughtful decisions, and a series of private purchases, finally acquiring Dalton 3 years earlier, through layers of trusted entities. I led it from the shadows, virtual meetings, secure messages, reliable representatives, because being seen would have opened the door to the very thing I most wanted to avoid: their expectations, their comparisons, their desire to share in something that belonged only to me. The annual Monroe family barbecue was always the same heavy ritual. The late August sun warmed the beautiful backyard my parents had lovingly tended. Green lawn, blooming hydrangeas, and the comforting smell of charcoal and grilled corn mixing with the familiar weight of judgment. Relatives wandered with paper plates and plastic cups, their conversations a well-known song of comparison and gentle superiority. I arrived the same as always, simple cotton sundress from the sale rack, hair in a soft ponytail, carrying a bowl of store-bought potato salad. The moment I stepped through the sliding door, my mother's voice drifted over the chatter. "Oh, Claire, still the little office helper?" she said with that familiar, gentle sigh, the one that carried disappointment like a familiar scent. "Administrative assistant," I corrected softly, setting the bowl down. "At Dalton Industries." My older sister, Isabel, appeared right on time, designer sunglasses resting on her head, her laugh bright and practiced. She wore a crisp linen dress that probably cost more than people thought my monthly expenses were, though she didn't know I'd paid off my home years earlier. "Mom, you won't believe it," she announced, her voice carrying across the yard. The CEO personally praised my latest campaign, said it was the most creative thing marketing has done in years. I kept my expression calm, stirring the potato salad more than necessary. I had read the real email thread that morning. The praise came from Nathan Cole, her direct supervisor, not from the CEO, not from me. But Isabel had always had a special gift for storytelling, something she'd practiced since we were little when she'd present my drawings as hers, or take credit for our group school projects. Our parents never seemed to notice, or if they did, they preferred her version. Mom's face glowed with pride. "That's my girl, always shining," unlike some people who seem happy staying in the background. Her eyes touched me for a moment, then moved away, as if the contrast was too heavy to hold. Dad joined in, turning burgers with the same steady tone he'd always used to guide me toward better choices. "No real drive, Claire? That's the issue. Isabel's earning great money, bonuses, everything. And you're, what? Comfortable handling paperwork?" The words settled like familiar shadows, soft enough now that they barely stung anymore. In truth, I had earned 8 figures the previous year through dividends and investments alone, but I stayed quiet. I always had. Aunt Eleanor came over, wine glass wobbling slightly. "Have you thought about evening classes, dear? Maybe a little business course? You could grow from that small desk." I held 2 MBAs, one from Wharton, one from Stanford, and a PhD in strategic management earned quietly online. I could have shared the awards, the articles, and the invitations I gently declined. Instead, I smiled. "I'm happy where I am, Aunt Eleanor." The afternoon moved slowly. Laughter, second helpings, the same familiar stories. Then, a sleek black Tesla glided into the driveway. My heart jumped. I knew that car. Nathan Cole stepped out, relaxed in a linen shirt and sunglasses, carrying a slim leather folder. He looked across the yard until he found me. A warm, knowing smile spread over his face. "Madam CEO," he called, his voice carrying through the sudden stillness. "I didn't expect to see you at a family gathering." Time seemed to pause. Dad's spatula slipped onto the grill. Isabel stopped mid-sentence. Mom's wine glass slid from her hand and broke on the patio stones, red spreading like spilled ink. A soft wave of surprise moved through the relatives. I smoothed my sundress, took a slow breath, and stepped forward. "Hello, Nathan. Welcome to the Monroe barbecue." The quiet was thick and alive. Every pair of eyes rested on me. You could almost hear years of assumptions being gently rewritten. Isabel spoke first, her voice small and unsteady. "You're the CEO? That can't be right. You're just an assistant." I turned to her, calm and steady. "Actually, Isabel, I'm your leader. I've owned Dalton Industries for 3 years." Dad's face grew deep red. "What kind of story is this?" Nathan moved beside me, his calm presence adding quiet strength. "No story, sir. Your daughter is one of the most capable leaders I've ever worked with. Under her guidance, we've more than tripled in value, reached record employee happiness, and grown into exciting new areas. She's remarkable." Mom held onto the nearest chair, fingers tight. "But your little apartment, the secondhand clothes, the way you live so simply." I lifted my chin. "I chose simplicity. It keeps things clear. It kept me safe from expectations I never asked for." The murmurs began. Aunt Eleanor was already looking up Dalton Industries on her phone. Market value. Oh goodness. Uncle Raymond coughed on his drink. Isabel's eyes filled with something raw, hurt, confusion, embarrassment. "You've been watching me?" she whispered. "All this time, quietly observing while I tried so hard for every step forward?" "No," I answered gently. "I was leading a company. Your work was judged fairly, like everyone else's, including the times you presented your team's ideas as your own, including the campaign that closely resembled one from 2 years earlier." She flushed deeply. The family remembered. They had seen her claim my childhood art projects and my high school writing awards. They had called it being outgoing. Dad's voice broke like distant thunder. "You expect me to believe this? You still hesitate over simple decisions." The old sadness stirred, familiar and tender, but this time I spoke from a different place. "Would you like to see the financial records, Dad? The reports? The purchase documents? Aunt Eleanor seems to be finding a lot already." Nathan cleared his throat softly. "Perhaps I should leave." "Stay," I said gently but firmly. "Everything is open now." I reached into my simple tote and pulled out a cream envelope. "Dad, this is for you." He took it with shaking hands. Inside, the deed to the house, mortgage completely paid. "Consider it a quiet thank you for all the times you believed I needed to be more." Aunt Eleanor caught her breath. Isabel swayed slightly. Dad stared at the paper like it might disappear. I turned to Nathan. "About the Lawson project. Shall we talk about it over dinner? I know a nice place downtown. No family, just business." As we walked toward the Tesla, Mom's voice rose, small and fragile. "But the barbecue?" I paused and looked back at the quiet scene. Scattered plates, forgotten food, and stunned faces. "I think we've finished here. I have a company to lead." In the car, Nathan apologized again and again. I had no idea they didn't know. I laughed, a light, surprised sound. Some truths need to come out, even if the moment isn't perfect. I've never felt more free. The weeks that followed were full of feelings and change. At Dalton, I stepped into the light. Tailored suits instead of soft cardigans, steady steps instead of careful ones. Employees who once passed me in the halls now smiled wider, whispers following like warm wind. Isabel was transferred to a smaller regional office, a decision that hurt deeply, but fairness required it. I quietly removed the old family photo I'd kept hidden, the one where I always stood a little apart. No more. Relatives sent sudden messages about exciting business opportunities. Distant cousins asked for help with just a small project, and Aunt Eleanor's son had a new idea. Security guided them away kindly. My mother began appearing at reception with homemade meals. Chicken casserole, love and regret mixed together. "I don't understand why you couldn't share," she said one afternoon, setting framed pictures on my shelf. I moved them after she left. "Remember college graduation, Mom? Isabel got a new car for making the honor list. I got to talk about wasting time on business courses instead of finding someone." She looked down, cheeks warm. "We thought we were keeping you safe." "You were keeping your picture of us safe," I answered softly. "Not me. Dad chose a different way. Newspaper articles arrived every week, edges covered in careful handwriting. My daughter accomplished this. That's our Claire. The same man who once saw me as drifting now wanted to stand beside my name." Isabel filed a formal complaint. HR, not knowing our connection, reviewed everything carefully. The results were clear and difficult. Inaccurate expense records, taking credit for others' work, and improper use of company time. I offered her a choice. Step away quietly with a fair reference or face a public ending. She chose to leave, coming to my office in tears. "You're changing everything for me," she whispered. "After everything I tried, everything you tried?" I slid the file across gently. "The Johnson project your assistant created, the changed timesheets. Fairness isn't disloyalty, Isabel. Please sign, for the sister I still care about." She signed, hands shaking. You think you're above us now? No, I said quietly. I just stopped letting others decide what I'm worth. My parents asked me to fix things. I sent them the HR summary with one gentle line. Would you prefer a different kind of attention? The messages stopped. I reorganized the marketing team, lifted up the quiet people who had carried the work for years, and created clear and fair reviews. Dalton had never run on favoritism. It never would. 6 months later, Thanksgiving came. I arrived in the Tesla, wearing soft cashmere and quiet confidence. The welcome felt different. Warm smiles, careful questions, and Aunt Eleanor telling everyone about my wonderful CEO niece. Isabel wasn't there. She'd found a new position somewhere else, finally walking her own path. At the table, Mom lifted her glass. To Claire, she said, voice trembling, who showed us that success doesn't always arrive the way we imagine. I raised mine. And to being real. It matters more than how things look. Later, Dad found me at the door. His shoulders were softer, eyes unsure. I was wrong. About so much. About you. I nodded once. Some words come too late to heal everything, but they can open a small new door. Monday morning, my assistant buzzed. Your mother's here again. With lunch. Tell her I'm in meetings most of the day. I turned to the window, seeing my reflection. Stronger, more open, and finally at peace. On my desk sat a new photo. Not a family picture, but a candid moment from our last company event. My team laughing together under warm lights. That was my family now. Success, I finally understood, never needed their cheers. It only ever needed my own belief. And sometimes, just sometimes, a single heart-shaking barbecue moment to remind you who you've always been.